Hey, what up, guys? John here with LinksWell Together Podcast, Episode 5. Let's get at it. Hey, everybody. Well, welcome back to our podcast. I am flying solo today. We did try to get good old Victor. He's up in the Pacific Northwest doing some trainings. So we did try to get hooked up and do this remote. But his trainings took a little bit extra time, and so it's just me. So we're calling an audible today, and today we're going to talk about some LinksWell T-style accessories. So we've talked about some of the main features. We talked about some of the big tech support things. So I just want to kind of open up the conversation around the different accessories that we offer, from things that are universal that'll work across all of them, to the ones that are specific depending on the year, make, model of the vehicle. So I just figured we'll just crack through a bunch of our accessories, and that's what today's episode is about. Flying solo, talking about accessories. So I'll just quit talking and let's get at it. So the first accessory I want to talk about is our USB DVR. That's this guy right here. This thing here will go right up on the windshield of your vehicle. Put it, wherever you kind of want that angle. But a cool thing about this is there's going to be an app installed in all of our T-style radios that will control it. So you will actually record on an SD card that slides into the side of the camera itself. So right there on the side is a slot for a mini SD. So all of your videos will record here in loops. So it's going to record, I believe it's in 3-minute loops. I believe you can set it up for 1, 3, 5, or 10-minute loops inside the settings, but it will record in loops. And what it's going to do is it's going to record in loops until it fills the card, and then it's going to go back up and just start to replace until it just keeps replacing until you lock one. So I'll show you in the app we can do all of that. But what makes it cool is not only is it all recording on there, but you're able to access it on the radio. You can do all of the controls on the radio. So I got my Jeep radio here on the dash. Or I'm not on the dash, on my desk. And so we'll just go ahead and open up the DVR app, and then you will see there's our camera. Look at that little side angle for you, because why not? But it's on there, it's live, and it would be recording if we had an SD card in here. But if I tap the screen, now we get all of our controls. So we see our settings here. So we can go in here and we can decide how we want things to go, whether we want it to flip. So if you've got the camera mounted on your dash the other way, you can flip the image. There's your record time, 1 minute, 2 minute. The brightness you can actually adjust depending on where the thing is mounted. And then over here on the left hand side you see the home, and then you see you can do picture in picture. You can bring it back up big. So hang on, I hit the wrong button. Fat fingers and all. So able to do all of your controls here. And now if I had an SD card in here, I would actually be able to go in there and watch. So you can actually watch it, and then you can see this little lock symbol here. So if something was to have happened, or maybe you were out playing on the trails and you had this cool video of the guy in front of you doing something crazy, or you doing something crazy, you would literally just open up the app, tap the screen, go into where you can see the videos. It will be the camera little flash there. You'll hit that. It'll open up all of your videos, and you can go into, I'm sorry, not there, playback. So where it says playback, that's where you would go. Forget all that. Playback. Hit playback. It'll list all of your videos. You select the one, watch it in real time on the radio. If that's the one you want to lock, you tap it, it'll lock it. And then what'll happen is it doesn't matter how long it stays on there, it'll never get recorded over. So you can lock it and pull the SD card out weeks, months later, and know that those are all going to be locked. But it's super simple, really clean. It is 1080. It's a nice image. If you watch some of our videos where I had the Jeep out and about, or we had stuff where we were driving and you saw the road, like all of that came off of this DVR. So the camera quality is good, and the install is simple. Mount it on the dash or the windshield. Run it in, plug it into one of the USB inputs on the radio. App's already there. Launch the app, and away you go. It's that simple. That's how easy the DVR is. And again, that'll work on any and every T-style radio we have. The other thing I want to talk about is our HDMI input. So this little box here, let me give you a story about HDMI input. So back in Generation 4, early on, we were able to do HDMI in and HDMI out. COVID came. COVID, you know how COVID did COVID. COVID closed down a whole bunch of stuff, which actually caused the factory that was making all of the chips we needed in order to bring an HDMI in. It made them go out of business, and then nobody was making chips again. So what we had to do is we had to create an external device that actually kind of hacks in and does some weird things. It's all, mad scientisty stuff. But if you've got a Gen 5H or Gen 5S, or if you have a Gen 6 or an XL, you can actually use this guy right here. It'll plug into the white USB and the DVR plug just to get its power, and it doesn't replace it, so it'll still give you the USB is still on this pigtail. It's just going to use that input, and now you have an HDMI input. Now, what do you want your HDMI input for? Well, it could be a variety of things. So sometimes when we go to the shows, we like to link the vehicles, so we'll put the HDMI output from one vehicle into the input of the other vehicle, so both vehicles in the booth are showing the same thing. Maybe you have a video game system you want to put in there, a Switch, like we've got a Switch in one of our trucks. If you want to play Switch on there, Xbox. Maybe you wanted to do something like a Roku or an Apple TV or something like that, or you wanted to mirror your phone. This is going to be the cleanest way to mirror your phone, Apple or Android. You're just going to go from your phone plug into an HDMI into this module, and you'll be able to have an HDMI input. It'll be a source. You won't have to worry about apps locking you out, because that's what happens a lot of times with the mirroring. There's a lot of the apps when you're trying to AirPlay will lock out because they think that you are trying to steal video. But it's as simple as that. You get this module, plug it into the back there, go into the settings, tell it has HDMI input, and then boom, you have an HDMI input. So cool. DVR camera works on all T styles. You also have the HDMI input will work on Gen 5H or up, and meaning S6 XL. And so those are going to be kind of our universal S things. Now we've got some stuff that are more vehicle specific. So like for the GM, if you've got the Bose system, well, we've got a Bose adapter. Not many times do we get folks that buy a radio that has for a Chevy truck that has Bose and didn't get a Bose adapter. But sometimes it happens. So we have that Bose adapter, super easy install. It's literally going to plug into one of the plugs on the dash or in behind the dash, and then one of the plugs on the radio. So that's going to be your Bose adapter for the GM. Again, super easy, plug and play. And the only other thing I didn't actually grab is we have different color wings for the T-style radio. So if you had the Denali that has the rose gold side pieces, we have rose gold side pieces that you can purchase. The radio will come standard with the silver painted ones, but if you want those rose gold colored ones, we do have those. I probably should have grabbed those, apologies, but we do have those for accessories as well. And then if we jump into the Ford, I think the Ford has got the most accessories, simply because Ford is just Ford, and Ford wants to be what Ford is. So the first one I want to talk about is the 360 module. So this is for the Ford trucks that have a 360 camera that is controlled by using the touchscreen. So there are two different 360 cameras that Ford comes out with. Both of those are on the Ford trucks. Both of them have a physical button above the factory screen that you push. But one of them, every time you push that physical button, it like cycles through the different camera angles until it turns off. So if you have one of those, you don't need the module. All of that stuff, you just have to put the radio in until it has the 360, and then that factory button will continue to just cycle through the images. Now, if you had the other one where you push that button and then the camera pops up, and now you use the touch screen and it gives you icons on the touch screen to say, I want to see this camera, or this camera. If you've got that 360 system, then you're actually going to need this module right here. Now, when you order it, it's going to come just like this, just the black box, and it's going to have one plug on it. And your plugs that come with your radio, the one that goes to where the sync module was that actually has the reverse camera RCA on it, will be a black plug that this plugs into. And it's going to be as simple as that. You're going to take this box, plug it into that harness that already came with your kit. Make sure, again, on those kits, there's a couple power plugs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can see that in our install video on the F-150. But this is going to plug in. You're going to tell it when you set up the AC, when you go into the settings and say, I have an F-150 high, you're going to say F-150 high with touch 360, save and reboot. And now this module here is going to retain all of your factory touchscreen controls for the 360 camera. And one little tidbit of knowledge on this for all of our Ford Raptor guys. If you have a Ford Raptor, even if you don't have the touchscreen 360, you actually need this module because the Ford Raptor has a second set of CAN bus wiring that goes through the harness that this one picks up. So what'll happen is if you have a Raptor and you don't put this in, when you go to try and go through the terrain modes on your transmission and a couple other settings, it won't be able to do it because that line, CAN bus line, is lost. So you have to get this module. So even if you don't have the touchscreen, this isn't going to add the touchscreen if you don't have it. But if you have a Raptor, you got to make sure you get this. So that's the Ford 360 module to retain the factory 360. The other things that we have for Ford are going to be our Bang & Olufsen retention. So it's going to come in this pretty little box here. I probably, you know what, I'm not going to open it. It's going to come with a couple things. It's going to come with 2 brackets, and it's going to come with a T-harness so that you can relocate the factory radio. I've got an install video on this, so you can check that out too. I'll put that in the link. But the harness is going to be a T-harness, and then it's going to have some relocation brackets so you can retain that factory radio to hide behind the dash behind the radio. We have 3 versions of Bang & Olufsen adapters. We have one for the Ford Ranger. That's going to be all Ford Rangers. We have one for the F-150. So if you have the F-150 with Bang & Olufsen, we have just one for that. Now, when it comes to the Super Duty, here's where it gets funky. And so hear me out. Super Duty, anything 17, 18, or 19 that says Bang & Olufsen on a Super Duty, it's actually not real. It's not the full Bang & Olufsen system, so you don't need the adapter. You're just going to use the standard harness that comes with the radio. So Super Duty, lower than 20, you don't need the Bang & Olufsen adapter. Now, if your Super Duty is a 20 or higher, they actually changed the power harness altogether. So regardless, if you have, where's my harness? Here it is. If you have a Super Duty, 2020 or newer Super Duty, you will have to order one of our harnesses. Either this guy here, that's just going to be a standard harness, or the Super Duty Bang & Olufsen. So 2020 up Super Duty, you will always need to get an accessory harness, either standard or Bang & Olufsen. 2020 Super Duty, that's what you have going on there. So we've got the factory Ford 360 module. We have the Bang & Olufsens, the different Bang & Olufsens, whether it's Ranger, F-150, or Super Duty. We have the new Super Duty harness. And then we also have a multi-camera interface, which I'll show you the one that goes to the Jeep. But we have a multi-cam interface where if you had the F-150 with just a standard camera and you wanted to add more cameras, we'll give you a module that'll plug in there. It'll control all through the CAN bus, so you don't have to run wires for turn signals or, speed senses and stuff like that. You'll just run your RCAs up to it and control it. We'll give you the same kind of look when it comes to controlling the cameras on your screen. We'll give you touchscreen control so you can access all of the cameras you want to. We'll give you a front, a left, a right, a rear, a bed camera, a trailer camera, and then I believe an accessory camera. So you get 6 inputs. All plug and play, super simple. Box will look very similar to this, but instead of having just one plug on the other side, it'll have another plug that have all of your RCA inputs. So Ford, we've got Bang & Olufsen for 3 different versions. Make sure you get the right one. We have the Super Duty harness. We have the factory 360 retention, and we have a multi-camera that can go into the Ford. And so those are going to be our Ford-specific accessories. And then if we jump over to the Chrysler Dodge stuff, really the big things we have for Dodge is if you have the older Dodge Ram, it's usually around the 13, 14, 15, and your factory reverse camera shows up on the rear view mirror and not on your radio. When you go to put our radio in, the video signal is not there. So when you put it in reverse, our radio is going to go into reverse because it knows to do that. But there's no signal there because the factory camera is actually running to the mirror. So we have an extension harness that you'll go to right by the door seal. And it's going to be this little T-harness here. I should probably open this out of the bag so you guys can see it. Give me 2 seconds here. Let me open this up. So it's going to have a T-harness. So it's going to have a male and a female side right here. That's going to adapt to the plugs that are right there. So when you open up your passenger side door, you open off right there by the glove box, that little door seal thingy. It'll pop open. You'll T-harness this in. Then you run this RCA up to behind the radio. And now what you've done is you've pulled the video signal from up by the rearview mirror down to the factory radio. So not many Rams, but there's some out there. So if your Ram's factory camera is in the mirror, we're going to be able to pull that signal down. We've got an accessory for you to pull that signal down and put it there on your radio. And the other thing we have for the Chrysler Jeep Dodge is going to be anything newer on the Dodge Ram that's 22 or newer. They've got another new power harness. And so just like the Ford, we have a power harness. So if you've got the Dodge Ram that's a 22 or newer, make sure that you also get that accessory harness. because, well, you're going to need it. The only other thing really that comes with the Dodge, or we have an accessory for the Dodge, is going to be the camera interface for anything that's going to be 19 or newer. So this is going to be all the LVDS camera. This is also for the Jeep, so I actually was going to talk about it when I got to the Jeep stuff. But that actually comes in your kit normal, so just know you don't have to get that extra. But we do sell it separately. So if you're installing a different radio and you're not installing one of our radios and you want to retain that factory camera, we can do that. You get our module, we'll adapt it, we'll give you an RCA output, we'll give you a standard CVBS, and we'll give you an AHD, depending on your radio, whether or not you can accept either one of those. But that's what we have for Dodge. So we've got a relocation for the camera, if you got your camera in the mirror, and we have the 22 and up Dodge Ram harness. And then that leads me into the Jeep stuff. So again, same thing with the camera adapter. Our kits will come with the camera adapter. If you're putting in someone else's radio and you want to retain that factory camera, we do have that camera module. And then we also have this little guy here. This is a beautiful little machinery thing here. This guy here will retain all of your 4XC menus and controls and monitoring, as well as the off-road pages. So depending on which Jeep you own, will depend on whether your radio had the off-road features inside the radio. Now, cool thing about this is you didn't need to have it, but we can add it. So for example, our Jeep Rubicon, for whatever reason, all of our off-road pages are shown up in the cluster and not the radio. But with adding this, we're able to now go in there and see. Let me open it up for you. Go into the car settings. So we are able to see all of the off-road pages. So your steering angles, your transfer case, the sway bars, and all those cool things. So all of the things that you would see in the factory, we can now retain it. Now you have to have this. So if you don't install this, you're going to have this menu, but nothing's going to get the data for it. So no, if you want to retain those or you want to add the factory off-road pages, you got to make sure you get this EV box. And then if you have the 4XE and you want to retain all of the hybrid stuff like you see here on this menu, you got to make sure you have this as well, because all of the data, all of the conversation is happening in this little module. So what I've heard from some is we are the only company out there able to retain all of the max regen and stuff like that on the 4XE, and that is the guy right there that's doing it for you. So we have the Jeep EV off-road page retention module. We've got the camera module, and then I mentioned about how we have the multicam. So we also have a multicam for the Jeep and Dodge. So it's going to look a little different than the Ford. It's going to be this box here, and the same thing with a plug that's going to plug into the back of our radio and just give you a bunch of open-ended RCAs so you can run your cameras from whichever direction you want to. And I wanted to show you real quick what that menu page looks like. So if you were to install one of our multicams, so our multicam that is vehicle specific that plugs into our radio, once you've set it up into the settings to say that you have the multicam, what will happen is next time you see the camera, this will be your page. I don't have any cameras hooked up. Sorry guys, it's going to be a black screen. But if you notice across the top, we've got all these icons. So we've got a front camera input, a left side, a right side, a reverse camera. We've got like a bed camera, and then we've got a trailer camera, and then we have an auxiliary camera. So those are all of your different inputs, and as simple as that, by pressing that icon is where it'll go. Now let me just put this out there. Anything that's not actively triggered, like a left or right camera, you can put wherever you want to. So any of my off-road guys, if you've seen, I do have a video showing our cameras that are underneath the Jeep, because we took a couple of the inputs, put a couple cameras looking down at the axles. So while we're out playing around in the dirt, we want to make sure we don't want to hit a rock. I can actually open up the cameras, hit that button, and it'll open it up. So I'll actually link that video as well. But that's our multicam. We have a multicam for the Ford. We have a multicam for the Dodge. We have a multicam for the Jeep. All right there, plug and play, super simple. We're working on the GM and we're working on the Toyota. Just haven't got to those quite yet. But those are the accessories, guys. We've got DVRs for you. We have amp retention. We have full factory camera retention. We have certain harnesses depending on what you have going on. So notice when you're purchasing or when you're looking to get for your radio or for your vehicle, just kind of make sure, hey, I got to make sure that I retain this 360, or make sure I got the right harness, or I've got Bang & Olufsen, I got to make sure I get the right Bang & Olufsen, or hey, I want to add multiple cameras, let me get that camera adapter, or maybe you want that DVR. And I'm going to tell you, most folks that have these DVR cameras will let us know like that it saved them because somebody cut them off or something happened in front of them, or they just got some really cool videos while they were out driving around, sunsets or cool stuff like that. So, and it's all going to be real easy, super simple. All of our accessories plug and play, just like our installs. But there you go, guys. episode 5, talking about LinksWell accessories. As always, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm sure Vic will be back next week. I believe he's flying back home today. And so that way you won't just have to talk to me. Because I kind of like having Vic around. He's good for the morale. And I don't know. He's a funny dude. Anyways, but make sure in the link down below, I've got all the links. I keep saying I'm going to put links in there. It's going to be a long description. But in the link, make sure you subscribe. There's a link down there for our giveaway. As soon as we hit 12K or 12.5K subscribers on YouTube, we're going to give away a double-din radio, 13-inch double-din radio. So make sure you click that. Even if you've already subscribed, you can click that link and you can enter by following us on Facebook and Instagram and posting and stuff like that. So those are all happening. Last and not least, if you've got a Jeep and you're in SoCal, I want to invite you guys. We have our Jeep out there. We're going to have the off-road pages. We're going to have the multi-camera. Everything's going to be in our Jeep working. If you want to see that live, we will be at Jeep Bash this Saturday over in Bolsa Chica, hanging out at the beach. So come hang out at the beach. Check out our Jeep. Check out our F-150. Check out our Tacoma. Say what's up. Get a hat. Cool stuff like that. But this Saturday, come down, Bolsa Chica, down here in SoCal. We'll be hanging out at Jeep Bash. Thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you again next episode.